If we want to find a game where developers are not only using music as an atmospheric tool, but also as a gameplay mechanic, we need look no further than 2015's Bloodborne by From Software Studios. Bloodborne has the player inhabit a character known as the Hunter as they travel throughout the gothic city of Yharnam, slaying beasts in an attempt to save themselves from the bloodborne illness that plagues the world. Being a From Software game in the Soul style, it is noteworthy for its immersive world, polished graphics, and its most notable feature, its insane difficulty. From Software had a difficult task ahead of them when creating the soundtrack for Bloodborne, needing it to transport the player into the time period of Victorian-era Europe, while also creating the blood-curdling horror aesthetic to match the game's graphics. Let's get a better understanding of how this was achieved by looking at the music for one of the boss fights, Lawrence the First Vicar. Now before we get straight into the score for the music, let's take a moment to learn about some of the techniques we should be looking for. Dr. Alexander Kolassa, a professor at Open University, has this to say about the music within Bloodborne. The soundtrack that accompanies this boss battle is a through-composed monster of its own, complete with rich polytonal dissonances and a floating, ambiguous meter. As a Beatros, one of the harder bosses to fight in the game, flails and body slams you while launching projectiles that can kill you with one hit, the music's beauty becomes unbearably disruptive and even suffocating. So what does this mean? Well, dissonance is going to mean a lack of harmony. So those are going to be the notes in the music that are out of place and sound a little bit off. Dissonance is used heavily in horror movie soundtracks to put the audience on edge by putting in unexpected notes and not resolving the established harmony. Meanwhile, the ambiguous meter is going to refer to syncopation, or how the music is meant to feel offbeat. This is going to put the player at a disadvantage by throwing off their natural timer, while also making the music feel uneven and chaotic. Now that we know what we are looking for, let's jump into the score to see these techniques at work. Alrighty, well right now we're looking at Lawrence the First Vicar in the score. So first thing I want to check out is right over here, and that's going to be our Violin 1 and Violin 2 time signature and key signature. So let's look at the key signature first. Right away, I'm seeing that we're going to have an F sharp, a C sharp, a G sharp, and also a D sharp. What's this going to mean? We are going to be in C sharp minor. So C sharp minor is going to be an interesting key for us. We have that minor key, which is going to really embrace those dark and depressive emotions that Bloodborne wants us to feel looking at its graphics and the setting it's going to be in. On top of that, we have a lot of sharps in here. A lot of accidentals are going to be here. And that's going to add to the dissonance that we see throughout the rest of the piece. The next thing that I want to check out is going to be the time signature, which is going to be at 6/8 over here. Now this is going to be pretty interesting when it comes to a gameplay aspect. So here's why. Most contemporary pop music that we're going to be looking at is going to be in 4/4 time. So that's going to be 4 beats with every beat being a quarter note. All right. Well, if we look at 6/8, we're going to have 6 beats with each one being an 8th note. Now, this is going to be really interesting when it comes to syncopation, which is going to be those rhythms that are off the beat. So, when we're working with 6/8, this is going to throw off our natural timer. We're used to working in 4/4. We're used to having 4 beats with every beat being a quarter note. When we're trying to fight these bosses, we're going to be actually working in 6/8, which is going to be throwing us off because we're not used to working in that tempo. So, this is going to really impact how we're going to be fighting that boss and the difficulty that we're going to see when trying to fight it subconsciously.